Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second mock draft of the 2025 NFL offseason we're doing here on the Miller Football channel. I know we are just over a week away from the draft, and me doing my second one now is probably not great timing, but we're here, we're doing it. We've got a very special guest, Jackson Powers of PFF fame. So, first and foremost, Jackson, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. I need the listeners to appreciate what Miller and I are going through today to put up this draft for you. Miller can tell you about it. He's dealing with some horrible allergies right now, and I myself have contracted an infection on my tongue over the past week. So I don't know if you can hear me lisping right now, but I can't really say my S's right. Because my tongue it's so messed up, dude, and so I am on this antibiotic mouthwash, and I can't eat anything hot, dude. I've got my Ben and Jerry's next to me for this episode. I promise I'm not obese. It's for my it's for healing purposes only.
Of course.
Yeah, we're going through a lot to put this episode together for everyone, but here we are.
Yeah, no, like I said this morning, I literally could not see out of my one eye because of my allergies. Like it is not a good time right now, but we're here, we're pushing through it. It's draft season. Jackson is going to be taking the evens today, and I'm going to be taking the odds, which is going to put me on the board with the number one pick. We're just doing one round. So just going ahead, getting into it, talking about what we would do if we were the general managers of these NFL teams. I think the first pick is pretty cut and dry at this point in terms of what is probably going to happen. And I think I personally agree with what they're going to end up doing. Jackson, I know your QB1 isn't exactly the consensus, and I'm in the same boat with you. I love a certain Alabama quarterback as well. So do you think that the Titans would be better off taking him over Ward, or how do you feel about this landing spot specifically for a quarterback?
Oh man, it's really interesting, and I know that the odds have really shifted to Ward basically being guaranteed to be the number one overall guy, and I'm not 100%. Like, it probably is what I would pick in terms of likelihood, but I'm not quite as penciled in as it seems like everyone else is that it's going to be him, and I don't know that it's going to be a quarterback either. I think it pretty easily could be one of the other top two defensive players on the board. But I have come around to like Ward. There was some very bad tape that I had on him that I really was not a Ward fan, and I thought he was going to drop for sure. And as I was watching Elijah Arroyo, I got some more tape on Ward and saw some pretty admirable traits. So I don't think he's any kind of extraordinaire prospect or anything. Like, he probably is the worst top quarterback prospect that we have seen in the past few years. Probably since the 2022 class, I want to say, the Ritter and Corral and whatever that garbage was. Like, he probably is the worst number one guy since then, but I can't hate them for making that pick. Like, and as much as I love the Abdul Carters and the Travis Hunters of the world, like, you got to get a quarterback, man. And I think that that's a pretty fine spot to take a swing at him. Like, because if you're not taking him, he's going to go right there at 2 to Cleveland.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, my bigger thing with it too, specifically looking at what quarterback they should take, from a what I would do perspective, is I really don't have a lot of faith in this team to do a whole lot of developing, in any respect with this current regime. So as much as I would love to be the contrarian and jump off with Milroe here at number one, I am going to go with Cam Ward just because I feel like he's a lot further along in his development. And I don't, I agree. I don't think his ceiling is nearly as high as what Milroe's could be. And I don't think he's going to be some special quarterback. I think, at his peak, he's probably going to be like a fringe top 10 guy, if that. And I mean, that's something admirable. You got to have something at some point. Will Levis isn't going to cut it. I don't even know who their QB2 is at this point because they lost Mason Rudolph. Like, something's got to give. And Ward is one of two quarterbacks in this class I would say could start day one. And the other one I don't think should go in the first round at all. So definitely gonna go with Cam Ward here. As Jackson, you're now on the board at number 2 with the Cleveland Browns.
With the Cleveland Browns, I am going to be taking the pass rusher out of Penn State, Mr. Abdul Carter. You could go Hunter or Carter here, and I really wouldn't be mad. I think I prefer Carter a little bit to Travis Hunter, and that simply is just because if Hunter is going to match Carter's value, it needs to be in the form of him playing both sides of the ball. Like I've seen some people who are a lot higher on Travis Hunter than I am. Like I don't think that him purely as a corner or purely as a receiver is going to match Carter's impact on the game purely as an edge. Now, if you're getting both corner and receiver out of that, then maybe I'm willing to have another conversation. But I just 165 pounds is a very lightweight to be expecting 100 snaps a game. And I kind of just think Carter is going to be the safer pick there. Not that Hunter isn't worth the risk, because there's just so many incredible traits that he's displayed all throughout his college career. But I just think that when it's all said and done, like you're more likely to find a gem out of Carter than you are in Hunter.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. So here at number 3 with the Giants, I was going to take whoever you didn't take at 2. So I'm going to go with Travis Hunter here. And I do agree. I am a little bit concerned about the overall projection with Travis Hunter, because I don't think he's going to be a two-way player at the NFL level. I just don't think size, obviously does matter, but I think just logistically, even if he was like a bulkier player that you could expect a little more wear and tear out of, I just find the logistics of playing both ways in a substantial enough amount to justify, saying this guy is going to be, say, for the Giants, our wide receiver 2 and our CB1. I don't see that logistically working out. Now, I do like the idea of him as a corner a little bit more than a receiver, but I still think, in this type of situation, you get somebody that's going to be great on the back end. They just added a couple big pieces in their secondary through free agency. And then you get him in as like maybe your wide receiver 4 on some gadget plays or something right away. And if he can build up to getting more reps on offense, that's great. If not, you have like a ball hawk in the back end of your secondary, and you can never go wrong with having a player like that.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you in the sense that I like him more as a corner. I think that his build projects a little bit better at the cornerback position, right? Because he really is not that big of a guy, but is very quick, very agile, has great change of direction. And when you're letting him be the one who kind of dictates the amount of contact going on at the top of a route, I just trust it to work a little bit better on the defensive side of the ball. Plus, I think that those speed and footwork aspects translate really well in terms of him being able to kind of run routes alongside a receiver. And so I think that there is enough of him as a receiver that he is like there's a role for him in the league, but I trust him to be a star at the cornerback position more than I do at the receiver position. So, and I think you made the right pick there in terms of like whoever the Browns don't take is the one that you should be taking there.
Yeah.
Here at pick 4, I'm gonna mock something a little bit unconventional, and
Okay.
it's something that I haven't really seen a lot of people talk about, but I am almost starting to kind of cement it as the pick for New England, assuming this is how the top 3 cracks out. I'm gonna go with Ashton Genty.
Ooh, okay.
I think he is my highest graded player in the entire draft, not accounting for positional value, of course.
Of course.
But I think with the Patriots, it's a situation where I really think they're going to want to go on the offensive side of the ball, right? Because you've got Drake May, who looked really good as a rookie. But, I mean, if you just look at the rest of that offensive roster, like every single other position is a serious gaping hole. And I know that there's questions about, like, the wear and tear of running backs, especially with someone who has as much tread on their tires as Ashton Genty. The running back room for New England last year was pitiful. Like the only efficient runner was Ramondre Stevenson, and he couldn't hold on to the ball,
Yeah.
right? Like it was just a fumbling machine. Like you need to be adding dynamic threats with the ball to this offense, and I think the value in Jainty, even at the running back position, is going to be better than any offensive lineman or any other pass catcher that you could be adding. And I know pick 4 is steep for a running back, but I really don't think you should be overthinking the positional value too much.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And honestly, to piggyback off of that with the Jaguars here at 5, if we're going to talk about positional value not being a huge factor, I'm going to go with a bit of an unconventional pick as well. And I'm going to take Tyler Warren here out of Penn State. My second highest graded player. I am such a big fan of Tyler Warren, dude. He has it all. He can play across the field, whether you need an inline tight end, a move tight end, a slot receiver, a boundary receiver, a running back, a fullback, a quarterback, even a center. Like, he literally did everything at Penn State. He's a great blocker, has great hands at the catch point, super physical, fantastic after the catch. This is a team that just needs somebody that can be reliable underneath. Just somebody that Trevor, on 3rd and 5, knows he's going to find a way to get him open, knows he's going to be able to rely on him to pick up some tough yards, things like that. And I think this is such a perfect fit with them losing Evan Ingram. I haven't seen a lot of people talking about how big this could be for them, just getting another super dynamic weapon, because right now you have Brian Thomas and who even else is in their receiver room. Parker Washington still there. De'Ami Brown they signed from Washington. They need another true big time playmaker, and I think Tyler Warren, out of the guys on the board outside of Ashton Genty, is going to be the best playmaker that you can get in this class on the offensive side of the ball.
That's very interesting. It's definitely not a pick I hate. It's not something I've been mocking because I just never really made the connection. But I think it makes a lot of sense, right? Like they lost their second and third biggest pass catchers in Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram. You need to add another guy to that room, right? And I can totally see why Tyler Warren is way high up on the Miller football board, right? Because just he can do everything you need as a blocker. And then also has that receiving aspect as well. So that's a very interesting fit. The thing that I have been mocking for them is actually a trade back, and taking a certain receiver out of Mizzou.
I like that a lot too. I think that fits my exact mindset of just needing another playmaker.
Yeah, I think Burden is very Liam Cohen-y.
Oh, absolutely.
So I could totally see him just falling in love there. I have heard there's been some character concerns, but I don't know what the truth is to that.
Same here. I'm not putting any weight to it until I see what they could be.
Right. So at pick 6 with the Raiders here, I want to go pure BPA, but you look at who they have in terms of their pass catchers. It is Brock Bowers and nobody else. And so I am going to mock them.
No love for Jacoby Myers.
No love for Jacoby Myers in Big 2025, I fear. I'll need to. He can be a fine option, but you need to add other bodies to that room. So I'm going to go with Tet McMillan. He's not even my highest graded receiver, but I see so much Drake London in him, right? Where it's just the very big bodied receiver who. The build is someone that you would expect to be a Keon Coleman type of player where you can get down the field and just win every jump ball ever. And that really is not McMillan's brand of football, right? What you're really getting out of him is someone who thrives over the middle of the field, right? Slants, digs, crossing routes. That's exactly where McMillan ate. I'm the PFF nerd. PFF graded him as the highest receiver in all of college football on multiple of those routes, right? And so he's just so good over the middle. And now that they have Geno Smith as their starting quarterback, which I could talk about this in a whole episode of itself about how just horrible of a move that was by Seattle.
Yeah.
But I would love to put someone like him in the building who offers a reliable target over the middle for Geno Smith. Because his big body, he's just so good at taking on contact from a closing in linebacker or whatever the situation may be. Like, he's just not someone where you can knock the ball out of his grasp while he's running over the middle. And so I think that this receiving room and the running back room, all of the skill position players outside of Brock Bowers are so pitiful. But it's a situation where, like, you cannot be walking into week 1 with this being the final group. Like, you have to make a very true investment in the draft. And even though McMillan is not the highest graded player on my board at this point, like, I think that the fit is good enough and the need is big enough that he makes a lot of sense at pick 6 to me.
Who is the highest graded receiver on your board?
Mr. Luther Burden.
That's perfect, because that's where I'm going here at number 7 with the Jets. Is going to be Luther Burden. I like the pairing of him and Justin Fields specifically a lot, because I see a ton of DJ Moore in Luther Burden's game. And that is by far and away the receiver that Justin Fields has found the most success with in the NFL. Somebody who, is just a demon after the catch, but also has this like sneaky vertical threat ability where you look at him, the way he's built, the way he moves, you wouldn't expect him to win vertically, be a really good route runner. I think Burden has a lot of that in his game. And you look at the Jets receiver core right now, you have Garrett Wilson, who isn't very happy with what's going on in New York and might not be a Jet by week 1. And then outside of that, you're looking at Alan Lazard, Tyler Johnson, Josh Reynolds, Malachi Corley. Like, they don't have, if Garrett Wilson does, request a trade out and they're forced to move on from him, they don't have anyone I trust to be like a reliable player. And so you get Burden, who's going to be really good on, not only the downfield stuff, but can also take a pop pass, line up in the backfield. I know that kind of like diminishes Malachi Corley's value, but that doesn't really bother me in this situation. I like Burden a lot as like a number 1 receiver. And I just, like I said, I think the fit with Fields is perfect.
Man, if Garrett Wilson does stay, matching up him and Wilson would offer for some crazy yards after the catch.
Absolutely.
Like, oh my God. And I do know that, I think that is a really good fit with Fields now that you mention it. Because I remember back when he was on the Bears, like, when they drafted Velus Jones in the 2nd round, like, that was Fields'
third round. Hold on, 3rd round. Do not diminish Ryan Poles like that. He would never take a player like that in the 2nd round.
The third round has enough of a lack of value that Poles is willing to throw that one in the trash can.
Exactly.
But I mean, like, the point being, like, Fields had totally vouched for Velus Jones in the sense that like that was supposed to be his specialty. And better than anyone that he is really not panned out in the league and probably will not pan out in the league. Yeah. But that type of play style is something that Fields has very much appreciated in the past. And you're putting it in a very prime player like Burden. Like, Burden is very easily the highest graded receiver on my board, because it's just like, yards after catch has been something that I have really started to value, because that just makes life so easy on a quarterback. But it's not like he's a one-trick pony, right? Like, there is a downfield element to his game, and it certainly isn't his main punch, but it can be his counter punch. Absolutely. And I think that's all you really need. So I have a very high 1st-round grade on Luther Burden. With pick 8 here to the Panthers, I kind of think this is a no-brainer. I'm going to go with Mason Graham. They desperately need to fill every single spot on their defense. Like, there is just no spot on defense where it's like they should not be addressing this. And Graham at 320 pounds moves so insanely different. Like, it's just the speed and agility with him looks like a 260-pound player. Like, he looks like an edge rusher. And there are plenty of issues with him, right? Like, he's not quite the stout run defender that you would expect out of someone his size. But, I mean, if you want to play him at 3 technique or 4-eye, whatever your formation might be, like, he is going to consistently rush the passer from the interior spot. And with the Panthers, just like with how many holes they need, they just need to go best player available. If Mason Graham is falling to you at 8, like, they should be sprinting in the card.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And wouldn't that be a hell of a way to wrap up the missing out on the Milton Williams sweepstakes, landing Mason Graham? I almost called him Mason Taylor. Goodness. But with the Saints here at 9, God, what the hell do you do with the Saints? Like, they need everything, especially
Mhm.
finding out now that Derek Carr is probably going to miss significant time with a shoulder injury. I will say I'm not taking a quarterback here. I am not touching Shador in the top 10, and none of the other quarterbacks, in my opinion, have any sort of like notable upside. I like Kyle McCord, but I don't see a world where he goes in the first round. Obviously, same thing with like Tyler Shook out of Louisville. But God, you know what? I'm gonna use my phone a friend here. Jackson, what are your
Hmm.
thoughts on the Saints here at 9?
I'll tell you what I've been mocking.
Please do.
I don't know what kind of grade you have on him, but I
Okay.
have been mocking Jalen Walker out of Georgia, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because the defensive line is bad and kind of has been bad for
Hmm.
a few years now. Now, like, I mean, they're just such a poorly constructed team
Yeah.
contractually, and like when you're still paying Cam Jordan at whatever age, like to be your premier guy, like of course the pass rush is going to be bad. And Walker is a guy who mainly played off-ball linebacker at Georgia, but it's pretty clear that the transition to full-time edge rusher is decently imminent.
Yeah.
I have a very high grade on Walker because I still think he can be like a true chess piece on a defense if that's what you want to do with him. And if not, you can make him a full-time edge rusher and he'll be good at it, right? Like that's still going to be a really great role for him. And so with how many like needs that the Saints have on their front seven, I think you just kind of put the athlete in the building and
Yeah.
figure it out from there, right? Like maybe you try to move him around different formations and stuff like that. If it's not really working, you can go to full-time edge rusher from there. But like there will be a way to maximize his talents, and whatever that way is, he's going to be damn good at it.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. You've sold me. I am admittedly not quite as high on Jalen Walker, but the fit with the Saints does make a ton of sense. And just getting someone who can do something in that front seven is huge. So,
Now, Miller,
yeah,
we have got your Chicago Bears on the
we
board.
do,
I'm not going to let you pick, but I
of
am
course.
interested who it is you want here if this is how the board fell.
Okay, so I honestly, if this is how the board fell, I would feel pretty good because you have both of the top tackles still on the board with Calvin Banks, who I know you're a big fan of, and also Will Campbell, who I know you don't like as much, but I'm a pretty big fan of. Defensively, Mykel Williams is still here, who's kind of like my big draft crush this year. I love
Okay.
Mykel Williams. And I also am a big Amarian Hampton fan. I honestly
Hmm.
would not be against him at 10. So any of those four, I would be a very, very big fan of. I guess if I had to pick one, I would probably go Hampton just because the idea of getting
Interesting.
DeAndre Swift fewer reps makes me really happy. Um, but honestly, looking at the guys on the board, as long as it's not Mike Green, which I'm sure neither of us are very high on,
Promise you it's not Mike Green who
no,
I'm
I know
taking here.
I would
Well, I'll
walk
get
away
that
a
out of the way
happy
right now.
camper.
Yeah. Well, I got good news for you. It's not going to be Hampton here,
Okay,
but it is going to be my guy Kelvin Banks.
of course, I figured.
The Bears have totally revamped their
Mhm.
offensive line this year for the better. That has been a very positive move for them this offseason, I think. Um, and really the only spot where you haven't seen either a major upgrade or like a guy where you already kind of have your cornerstone, like in right tackle with Darnell Wright. Like they didn't change anything over the offseason, but you know that that's going to be the guy going
Yeah,
into it.
absolutely.
Really the only spot where you don't have that is left tackle.
Mhm.
And I know that a lot of people view Banks as kind of a guard tackle hybrid. I feel pretty comfortable that Banks can succeed as a tackle at the NFL level. And so I think my plan would to be to throw him in there. And I can't even remember who it is who's first on your depth chart right now at the
Braxton
left tackle
Jones.
spot. Braxton Jones, like it's someone who's good enough, right? Where like you don't desperately need to
For
replace
sure.
him, but he's not the long-term solution,
Mhm.
obviously, right? And so if you want to throw Kelvin Banks into the building, have him compete with Braxton Jones, maybe he doesn't start right away. Um, but he's just someone that I love as a prospect. Like what he does with his hands,
Mhm.
oh my God, it just makes me salivate. Like edge rushers cannot get their hands on his midsection and push him back because he is just such a hand fighter. Like he is so quick and has such an amazing reaction time. Like he's consistently putting them off balance just with his upper body. And that's not to mention how quick his feet are, how
Mhm.
great of a puller he is. And now that you've got Ben Johnson in the building, like who was the main offensive lineman that he was using? Penei Sewell, dude. Like
Mhm.
Sewell was consistently getting out and lead blocking, like getting out into space. I think Banks has that kind of speed and has that kind of quickness to climb to the second level and do whatever you need with him as that type of player. And I think that Johnson is going to love Banks and want to draft him as like the main run defender on, or excuse me, the main run blocker on this team, like the highlight guy,
Absolutely.
like he had in Penei Sewell. And I think as a pass protector, there certainly are issues, right? Like his anchor just is not very good yet, but it's something that you don't really see affect him very much because his hands are so good. Like he mitigates the problem so well.
Mhm.
And so I think Banks would be a fantastic fit in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. And, talking about having a tackle that can get out on the move is so important for Ben Johnson. And not only would he have Calvin Banks that can do that, pairing that with Darnell Wright having two tackles that can get out there, light a dude up in space, throw a fucking pass if you want because it's Ben Johnson. Like that would be a dream scenario. I would be very, very happy to have Kelvin Banks in the building. Here with the 49ers at 11, I'm going to go with the other big tackle in Will Campbell. And I think the big benefit here with the 49ers is you start out probably with him as a guard day one. He replaces, is it Ben Barch is their left guard right now? Yeah. He comes in, replaces Ben Barch. He's got the quickness. He's got a lot of the technical stuff down. I know you and I aren't big on his footwork, but other than that, I feel like he's a pretty technically sound prospect, at least in the upper body. He's got good power. I think he's a good run blocker. And then, here in 2-3 years, if that, when Trent Williams finally decides to call it quits, you have the option to kick him outside if you like where he's been with his development, or you can keep him inside at guard. So I think having the flexibility to do one of two things with him is pretty big. And at the end of the day, they just need something on their offensive line because that offensive line is atrocious and it cannot not go addressed within the first 3 rounds of the draft.
It's true, man. There's a couple different spots that I could see the Niners going positionally, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty clear that most NFL heads are a lot higher on Campbell than I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so like if he truly does have that hype, like go ahead and run in the card, man. Like I can't hate that. Um, Here at 12 with the Cowboys, I'm gonna go with a guy that you previously talked about a little bit, and that is Omarion Hampton.
Yep.
I think it's just one of those running back classes, man, where there's gonna be multiple in the first round.
Absolutely.
Um, and obviously, everyone wants the Genty, because he just is like in my opinion, the best running back prospect I've ever seen, and that includes Bijan Robinson.
Ooh,
Um,
okay.
but like Hampton is a guy that would be a damn good running back one in a class that didn't have an Ashton Genty.
Absolutely.
And there definitely are limitations to his game, right? Like I don't know for sure that he's a 3-down back in terms of like what he lacks sometimes as a receiver or as a blocker. But right now, the Cowboys have Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders as the main two guys
And
in
Deuce
their
Vaughn,
running back room, and Deuce Vaughn, of course, can't forget that. But in big 2025, I fear that's not going to cut it,
of
and so
course.
I know that there are some positional value complainers there, but like man, you got to fill that hole.
Listen, I don't think anyone that watches this channel gives a damn about positional value. I make videos about fullbacks every other week.
There,
Like
you know
we
what?
Ball
That's
players are ball
probably true.
players at the end of the day.
I gotta look at the context. I gotta look at my target audience.
But I love, as much as I would love Hampton in Chicago if Genty isn't an option, I love Hampton in Dallas almost as much because honestly, I see a lot of Ezekiel Elliott in his game. I think the way they carry themselves when they run is almost like a spitting image of each other. I had the other day because I was watching Hampton with my dad because my dad played fullback in high school, not college, goodness. And he, loves looking at like the little technical aspects of running backs. That's part of why I'm so big on the backfield. And first clip he saw, he was like, "That's Ezekiel Elliott." I didn't believe him. I threw up. I had like a double screen going, one of Zeke's highlights, one of Hampton's highlights, just to compare the way they carried themselves. And I mean, there are so many runs where they just look like the same football player. And I think getting a guy like that when Dallas is really just looking for something to hang their hat on. I know they have talented players across the board, but obviously it hasn't translated to a lot. So honestly, the idea of getting Hampton, who's just this mean smash mouth back, throwing him in a backfield with a fullback, bring him back like that old school cowboy way of offense with a quarterback who's kind of, I love Dak Prescott, but they probably at this point would want him to do a little more game managery stuff if they're going to rely on the run. And, if he needs to step up, he will rise to the occasion. And I think that would be such a perfect fit for Dallas. But with the Dolphins here at 13, this is going to be a little bit of a projection for me. And the projection in the sense of I think they are about to make a pretty substantial move, and that is going to be getting Tyreek Hill out of the building. And because of that, I am going to take our third receiver off the board, and I'm going to go with Matthew Golden out of Texas.
Wow.
Who is one of my favorite players in this class. I love what he does, in terms of stretching the field. I think he's a great route runner. And he's somebody that I think fits exactly what they want. I think he's a fantastic, like Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle replacement, depending on how you want to put it. If you want to say Waddle's the Hill replacement, and then he would step into Waddle's role or vice versa, whatever it may be. I think he fits the Dolphins like MO at wide receiver perfectly. I think he's one of the more talented players in this class. And in a year without a lot of true like superstar caliber players, I think landing a guy like this at 13 would be a very, very good fit for Miami, especially if it means you get rid of a cancer like Tyreek Hill.
That is interesting. I have not yet mocked any scenarios for the Dolphins that include shipping Tyreek Hill, just because I haven't totally thought about it all the way. But I know that it's been in the news quite a bit.
Yeah, Andy, he's has a warrant out, I think, again. I don't know if he actually got arrested yet or if he turned himself in, but there's a warrant out for him right now. So he might just not play anymore. Yeah, domestic assault, as per usual.
Ooh, yeah, not great.
Actually, I'm going to fact check that, but I'm like 99% sure that's what it was.
While you're doing that, I will give my rationale for the next pick. Pick 14 with the Indianapolis Colts. I am going with Colston Loveland.
Absolutely.
And it's been a few years since they have added a premier tight end, and I kind of think that they are on the look for one. It would not shock me at all if they traded up to get Warren, because I think Warren's a little bit better of a fit with them. And Warren is my tight end one, but I'm not mad at anyone who's got Loveland above there, because he's my tight end one specifically because I value the blocking side of things a little bit more. And Warren kind of clears Loveland in that aspect. But if you're looking for a guy who is mainly playing the receiving aspect of things a little bit more, Loveland is much more of a true game breaker in that regard to me. Like what he can do after the catch is very special. I think his route tree is a lot more developed than Warren's. And given that you've got some question marks with Anthony Richardson, throw him a pretty premier target. And if Richardson doesn't pan out, you've still got Loveland for whoever the next guy is. Right. And so I think that they love Warren, but they're willing to settle for Loveland is kind of my vibe analysis with them.
Yeah, and that makes a ton of sense. I mean, I agree wholeheartedly, and that Loveland really isn't that far off from Warren as a prospect, and I can definitely see why someone may prefer him. But you know me, I'm with you 100% on the blocking. I think that matters a ton, and it's not even that Loveland is like a horrific blocker. He just doesn't have the frame to hold up, and that's obviously not going to improve at the next level. Also, with the Tyreek Hill thing, I double checked. There were no charges filed, but there was like a domestic incident he was recently involved in with his wife, I believe, that's trying to file for divorce. So that, it's always something with Tyreek Hill, man. It always is. But talking about some stuff that isn't horribly depressing, thinking about the league employing these psychopaths, the Falcons here at 15. I really like the idea of further boosting the defense. I think that's going to be the big move for me. And looking at what they have in their front seven, you've got Leonard Floyd and Arnold Ebiketie as kind of your two starting edge rushers. I have a soft spot for Leonard Floyd, but in the big 2025, I just don't think you can get away with him as like a full-time starter. I think he's got to be a bit more a part of a rotation. And because of that, I am going to go with Nick Scarreton out of Texas A&M. One of my favorite edge rushers in this class. I know the production wasn't there, but I think when you look at the traits, and especially you go back to the Purdue tape before he got to Texas A&M when he was playing a little bit slimmer, and that's what he slimmed down to for his pro day. You're talking about someone who's 260 pounds, has legit bend, really good hand fighter, good run defender. I think he's somebody that's just a very high floor prospect. You can check in right away. Even if he's not listed as the number one or your depth chart, he's going to get a lot of reps. Will probably take over for Leonard Floyd sooner rather than later, opposite Ebiketie, who's more of your, freaky athlete, traitsy type of player. I could also see them going with Scarreton's teammate, Shamar Stewart, obviously, but I for them, want to go with someone I feel a little bit more confident in panning out, someone with a little bit of a higher floor. So I'm a big fan of Scarreton. I know this is probably rich for a lot of people, but after the first like 10 or so picks, I think there's going to be a lot of surprises in terms of where guys go versus the projection that they're getting currently. A lot of guys that people might see as day 2 prospects going in the top 20, and a lot of guys people see as top 20 prospects going on day 2, and vice versa, which is something we've heard pretty much all off season.
Yeah, I can't hate it. I must say I'm more of a Stewart man myself.
Which is fair.
Yeah, but I think the addressing that position is very important for them. Cardinals on the clock here. When you look at that team last year, their defensive line was consistently getting blown off the ball, both exterior and interior. So I think at this point you just kind of go BPA at that position, and Kenneth Grant still on the board to them is a huge home run to me, right? Like he is 360 something pounds, and similar to his teammate Mason Graham, moves like he's an edge rusher. Like he just has so much speed and lateral change of direction. Like he'll offer you pass rush juice at a weight where no one should be rushing the passer. Like it's him and Dexter Lawrence are like the two guys that can do that.
Yeah.
And I really think like even if he is not as stout of a run defender as you would like for a 360 pounder, right? Like I just think that taking him early is going to trend well for you because of what he can do as a pass rusher.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not have said it better myself. As with the Bengals here at 17, obviously you got to go defense. I mean, they have probably the worst defense on paper in the league. And as much as I want to go with my favorite player in the class, or favorite as in most enjoyment, not top player on my board. I want to make sure that's clear. As much as I want to go with Mykel Williams, who is my favorite player in this class, I just feel like they need someone who's going to be more of an instant impact because of how bad that defense is. This is a team that has the offense to compete. The defense is just, a couple steps behind. And I think the best thing you can do is kind of look at what, looking at what this defense lacks. I'm going to go with the secondary, and I'm going to go with a player that I think fits a profile that they went for in the first round. I think it was the first round. It may have been the early second round a couple years ago with Dax Hill as like this versatile do-it-all type player. And I am going to go with Jade Barron out of Texas. I think this would be such a great fit as either a nickel or a boundary or as a safety. Wherever you need to play him, he's going to do something for you. And having somebody that can fill whatever role you need when you have all these kind of like question marks, you can determine where you're weakest in the secondary and just plug him in and run with it. I think that would be a big time pick for them.
Yeah, I mean, the player that I compared Barron to was kind of like a Witherspoon light.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, where he's kind of an undersized nickel player, but he punches way above his weight and is not scared to kind of get dirty into the kind of uglier parts of things. Like he'll go make a tackle, he'll go take on contact. And he's someone that I think you can have on the outside or the interior. I have some questions about his like true man coverage sets.
Sure.
But the zone stuff is really nice with him. I can feel myself lisping right now. I promise this is not how I usually sound. But my Seattle Seahawks are on the clock. And Miller, I'm going to do something freaky.
Okay, I'm here for it.
I am going with Jalen Milroe.
Okay, I love it. I'm so here for it.
So I know that they just signed Sam Darnold to a 3-year deal. But with Darnold, you got about 3/4 of a really good year out of him and a big time playoff drop. And so I think that there are still very much some question marks about whether or not he is a franchise guy. And I don't think you want to leave your future up to interpretation. I also know for a fact that John Schneider loves quarterbacks who can steal a gap. I also know for a fact that when they extended Geno Smith a few years back, they front-loaded his contract because they, at that time, had pick 5 from the Denver Broncos, and if he was available, they would have taken Anthony Richardson. And I think a lot of the reason they front-loaded Geno's contract is because they loved the athletic prospect in Anthony Richardson. And if they wanted to move off of Geno, they could do so easily. They could pay him a lot for a year and then kind of get away from his money after that. And I think that's very similar in how they've structured the Darnold contract. And given how many similarities I see in Milroe as I did to Anthony Richardson when he was a prospect, I think it's very possible that Seattle has had their eye on Milroe for a long time. They brought him in for some visits. Like, he very clearly is high on their board. Maybe he's not this high because, don't get me wrong, I very much stray away from consensus on how high I am on Jalen Milroe. But I think it's very possible that they front-loaded the guarantees of Darnold's contract so they could get out of it, where they could draft Jalen Milroe and sit him for a year or two and then punt on Darnold whenever they needed to. Right? And if Darnold is good, you've got Darnold under contract, then you can still pay him the 30 whatever million a year. But I think it's very smart for Seattle to give themselves legitimate options at the quarterback position. And I think with a year or two of development, Jalen Milroe could legitimately be one of the best quarterbacks in football.
Yeah, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly, and honestly, I hope this happens for you, man. I really do. Like, fingers crossed. I want him to be a Seahawk for your sake. So bad.
Man, I would like if I feel like I have been the main propagator.
Oh, you absolutely have
of Jalen Milroe, like, across Twitter, and I've gotten a few tweets that have just totally banged for my Jalen Milroe love. And if he ended up becoming a Seahawk and going way above where anyone thought he should, dude, that would be Oh, I would feel like the Joker. Like I just like it would be such like a villainous grin on my face if this were to happen. But I can fully defend it, and I think we're at the point
Absolutely.
like there's a few guys that I want, but if this is how the board shakes out, like I legitimately believe that this is how I would draft.
Yeah.
Like I'm fully comfortable taking him at 18.
Yeah. And I'm with you. He's my QB1 too. I'm probably not as high on him as you are, but I think this will be a huge pick for the Seahawks. As with the Buccaneers here at 19, I'm going to stick on the defensive side of the ball along with my last couple picks, and I'm going to take Shamar Stewart this time. This is a team that right now has a decent little edge rotation. It's not great, but I like Yaya Diaby as a starter. And I think Hassan Reddick, if he still has a little bit of something there, can at least be like a starter in name type of player that, rotates in and out. And it gives Shamar Stewart the ability to rotate, to maybe just play early downs as a run defender, because we know that is the best part of his game right now. And then, as he continues to grow, maybe learns from some of the veterans on the roster like Hassan Reddick, he can start to develop his pass rushing tool belt, become a legitimate polished pass rusher, hopefully. Worst case scenario, you get a big, freaky, athletic run defender for early downs that can cause havoc. And every once in a while, you can just ask him to bull rush on third down, and he can probably get some legit, drive and collapse the pocket a little bit. So either edge or corner is where I think Denver would be, or not Denver, excuse me. That's the next pick. Where Tampa would be best suited. And I just think Stewart falling this far would be such a big win for them.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Stewart as a prospect. He is extremely athletic, right? Like you saw what he did at the combine.
Yeah.
It's better than. Did he score a 10 on
Uh,
his RAS,
Let me double check.
or was that just the Eminwari?
Let's see here. It says a 999 from February 27th. Let me see if I can find a newer one here. March 12th. This one, yeah, 10 flat as of
10
March
flat.
12th. 10 flat.
I mean, regardless of what the number is between a 999 and a 10,
Right.
I mean, he just is an extreme athlete. Like he's got long arms. No matter what happens with him as a pass rusher, he is going to be an amazing run defender for you.
Absolutely.
Like you can add him and kind of expect him to be a Jadeveon Clowney type of player,
Mm-hmm.
where he just goes in and blows up the edge consistently. And there definitely is room for him to grow as a pass rusher, right? Like he just is not totally developed on that kind of
Mm-hmm.
side of the ball yet. But he's someone that I feel like the earlier that you mock him, the more right that you're going to look.
Yeah.
Where obviously he is not, he won't go pick one or anything like that. But
Right.
I don't think you really can be mocking him too early, with some exceptions. Like it would not shock me at all if he went in the top 5, the top 10. Like we've seen that with Trayvon Walker. And so I think that he's someone that I very much expect to go much higher than maybe what his stock is suggesting right now. Broncos are on the clock, and I'm gonna go with Emeka Egbuka.
Okay.
I look at their receiving chart right now. They still got Sutton, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
I am
absolutely.
rusty on like what has happened in the off season, but yeah,
Yeah, no, he's
they've
still
still
there.
got Sutton. They've got Devon Vele. Shout out to him, University of Utah legend.
Oh yeah.
But what they really don't have is someone who can kind of play zone coverage really well. Right, Emeka Egbuka has all of the like stereotypical Ohio State receiver traits that you've seen out of former guys like Chris Olave, JSN. Like those are the guys I kind of think about, the power slot players who specialize in ball tracking and body control. And I think that he is someone who is going to be very good for Knicks to be able to kind of play over the middle and beat zone defenses at the second level. I just like there was plenty of Knicks' game that I didn't love last year, but I kind of chalk part of that up to failures of the personnel. And I think Igbokwe is a wonderful guy to kind of stick in there alongside Sutton and be almost a counterpunch to what he offers to you deep and against man coverage.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. I like that a lot. As with Pittsburgh, I know there's a lot of Steelers fans out there that would be thanking their lucky stars if the board fell this way. Shador Sanders all the way down to 21. But I'm telling you, I just don't see it. I really don't. So I am not going to go Shador here. As badly as they need a quarterback, I think they would be much better off waiting or even maybe trading down. But I don't have a trade in mind, so I'm not going to go that route. Instead, I'm going to go.
I'm very interested to see who you pick here because there's a guy that I would be running up to the board.
All right, I'm not going to change my pick, but I want to know.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't.
But who is it? I just want to know.
It is Mr. Josh Simmons out of Ohio State.
Great minds think alike.
Oh,
That's exactly
perfect,
where I'm going to
dude.
go. I
Awesome.
love Josh Simmons. Honestly, I think if Josh Simmons wasn't coming off such a major injury, he would be my OT1 this year. Like, I think he is such a special football player with the way he moves, with the physicality he brings in the run game. The technique is all there. Reminds me a lot of, why can't I think of his name? Darisaw from Minnesota, Christian Darisaw. I think there's a lot of him in his game. And honestly, Pittsburgh, as much as I wanted Broderick Jones to pan out, he just hasn't. And I think at a certain point, you just got to go, you know what? Cut your losses. Take a great football player. Maybe you can try kicking Jones inside. I don't know. Maybe you can try him at right tackle and Fotanu can play inside. It gives you some flexibility. It gives you some options. And I just think Simmons is such a great football player.
Right. No, yeah, I mean, no matter what, the offensive line just isn't done yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of think Broderick Jones played right tackle in college, if I'm not incorrect.
I'm pretty sure. I can double check that.
But it's I mean, it's someone where like I think you're totally right. Where like if he's good enough to stay out at the tackle position, you can go. I think pretty clearly Simmons would be the left tackle there. And then at right tackle, you can either go Fotanu out there at tackle and then Jones at the bench, or you go Jones at right tackle and Fotanu kicks into guard, because that's something he very easily could do, I think. So the personnel on the offensive line isn't done yet, and I think Simmons is just a good enough player. And you have the flexibility, thanks to kind of how you built out your offensive line right now, where you can draft him and just be comfortable that you're going to make it work.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I really think that's a great play there. Like you said, like, coming off injury scares me for sure. But he probably had the best tackle tape out of any prospect in this class. Him and Kelvin Banks, in my opinion. At pick 22.
I double checked, by the way, real quick with Broderick Jones. He played a little bit his freshman year at right tackle, and then was a left tackle the rest of his time at Georgia.
So maybe it was the Steelers had him at right tackle.
Yeah,
I
right
know
away
he's
they
played
did.
Right tackle. Okay. Right. So it's a situation where you probably can play him on either side, but I feel more comfortable with him as a tackle than a guard. I feel more comfortable with him on the bench than anything. But but like I think he is more of a true tackle. At pick 22 here, the Chargers are on the board, and they have seen some very serious defensive line failure over the last few years. I'm gonna go with Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss.
Okay.
I really like Nolan's upside. He's extremely athletic, and there's very clearly a very high ceiling on him. What he offers as a run defender, I think, is really solid, and you have juice that you can add to him as a pass rusher. Like, I just think if that falls to you with the Chargers, like, it's a big enough need, and he's a good enough player that match feels pretty solid to me.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not quite as high on Nolan as you, I don't think. The hand usage and specifically his lack thereof really concerns me. But I mean, the athletic upside is
Right.
undeniable. I definitely think he would be a great fit with the Chargers because I think they would hammer into his head pretty quickly. You have hands, fucking use them. Because if he learns how to use them, he can be an absolute monster across the defensive line. As we get to the Packers here at 23, and as much as I want to say, it's finally time, wide receiver in the first round for Green Bay, I don't love any of the guys still on the board as a first round receiver, personally. So instead, I think the best case here is to go with the defensive side of the ball. And I don't know. I'm kind of looking at the corner spot, and Keyshawn Nixon is still listed as a starting football player, and that simply cannot do. That cannot stay. So I am going to, much to my dismay as a Bears fan, I'm going to give them one of my favorite players in the class, and Will Johnson out of Michigan. Such a stud football player. Would have been probably a top 5 pick if he didn't suffer 2 different injuries his senior year. And I recognize the hesitancy with that, the concerns. Obviously, it was a shoulder injury and turf toe. And that shoulder injury, when he was playing through it, really, really changed how he played football. He became a lot more passive and, made a lot of business decisions, which I usually love to slam players for business decisions. But as, a true lockdown corner, if your shoulder's fucked up, I'm not going to be mad if you're more worried about guarding your guy than you are about flying downhill and hitting a running back or hitting a tight end underneath. So I think he has pretty much everything you could want in terms of instincts, football IQ, great in zone coverage. Didn't have a lot of man reps on tape, but I feel like he has the technique and the, football IQ, like I said, and mirroring ability to really, hold his ground in man coverage. I don't think that will be too tough of an adjustment for him. So again, as much as I would hate to see it, I think this would be huge for Green Bay, especially given the uncertainty of Jair Alexander going forward.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was going to mention. It's like, I think that secondary is definitely something that needs to be addressed, and it's not necessarily something where it's like the Packers need to take a defensive back in round 1, but it certainly couldn't hurt, right?
Right.
Like it needs to be addressed with early draft capital. But I think Will Johnson falling this far, yeah, that pick makes a ton of sense to me. I'm gonna go with another defensive back here to the Vikings. I'm gonna go with Mr. Malachi Starks.
Ugh, I hate it. I hate it. Will Johnson and Malachi Starks being in my division would hurt my
I
heart.
was gonna
dude.
say you hate how much you love it.
Yeah,
It's
I do.
yeah, I mean Starks is I know that there's been a lot of hype with like Nick Warren and stuff like that, but Starks is still very much my favorite safety in the class. The Vikings, they kind of won a lot on defense last year with like very poor defensive personnel, outside of their pass rushing group. Like a lot of it was just Brian Flores being awesome. And I don't know how sustainable that is in the future, right? Like I think you got to add a guy in your secondary like Malachi Starks to eventually kind of clean that group up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Here with the Texans, what a weird offseason Houston had, because I had a pick penciled in. I was so ready to run it up to the podium, and then I remembered their offensive line does not exist.
Doesn't.
They simply do not have one. So as much as I would love for this to be the Michael Williams spot, for him to develop a little bit behind Danielle Hunter and behind Will Anderson, get to work with D'Amico Ryans and his staff, and really just, get some of the best development he could possibly get, I'm going to stick on the offensive line here. And given the guys available, if we take a look at the different linemen around, I am torn. I don't know if I want to go with the player that I have graded higher or the player that I think fills a bigger need. Because right now your tackles are Trent Brown, who was solid by all accounts. They also have Blake Fisher, who I was a big fan of coming out of Notre Dame last year. Then you have Cam Robinson, Titus Howard on the other side, which is obviously not ideal. And the interior is a little stronger, if I'm not mistaken. I honestly don't know how Juice Scruggs has been playing, whether or not he's like a
I think
full-blown
pretty bad.
liability.
I think quite bad.
You know what? All right, if Juice Scruggs is that bad, I'm going to go with someone that this is one of my big takes this year. I might have to scroll down a little bit. I don't know if I'll have him listed as a tackle or a guard. There he is, Wyatt Milam out of West Virginia. My
Ooh.
top interior lineman. I think he is incredible. Obviously, the big concern with him is he's never played inside before, which sure is very not ideal. But in terms of wanting somebody who can just do everything at guard, I think his anchor's incredible. He's a great hand fighter. He has the quickness to get out as a puller or climb to the second level or, block in space if you need him to. He's got the play strength you want. He's a high IQ football player, really tough. I just love everything he has to offer. And I think he is just a tick better than someone like Tyler Booker because of his ability to actually move, because Lord knows Tyler Booker cannot do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say the guy that I have pretty consistently been mocking there is Tyler Booker. Because I mean, Stroud was just under so much pressure last year. I
For
think that the
sure.
main thing you've got to be looking at is pass protection. And to me, Booker is the best pure pass protector in the class. But man, there are some very serious limitations in what he can do in the run. Anything zone, maybe inside zone stuff because you just don't need to climb as much. But even then, I
Yeah.
seriously raise an eyebrow. Anything zone, he's just like disqualified from.
Yeah.
And gap stuff you can use him in if he's like the down blocker. You cannot pull him like at all. He is just so slow. Like he reminds me a lot of Osiris Torrance,
For
where
sure.
it's like there's just so much as a pass protector that you love about him. But having him there on your starting five on your offensive line, like it just seriously limits what kind of run stuff you can call. And maybe the Texans kind of want to lean into that passing game with Stroud and just focus on the upside with Booker there. Because I mean he really has everything. Like the anchor is special, the arms are 34 inches long.
For sure.
But man, like he's a prospect with very high highs and very low lows. And so I totally understand wanting to stray away from him. Here at pick 26 to the Rams, I'm gonna go with Jahad Campbell.
Okay. Yeah, I like that a lot.
I think he is I think he's like one of the better defensive players in this class. He has lots of range and is kind of a ball hawk. There are some like miscues with run filling and stuff like that, but I mean, the linebacker position out of college has been weird for long enough that like I think you're willing to put up with that and like look at his tools and still go first round with him. And I think that it's a big need for the Rams, right? Like we're looking at their depth chart now. Their inside guys are Troy Reeder and Omar Spates.
Yeah.
Like they need interior linebacker, especially if Braden Fisk is going to be in consistently on rundowns. You got to have some cleanup stuff on the second level. And I think at this point he's just best player available on the defense, other than maybe Mykel Williams. And it just I think that just kind of makes sense. Like if you're the Rams and you aren't looking to make a move and this is how the board plays out, like I think you've got to be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Rams, you hit the nail on the head bringing up Braden Fisk, who anyone that watches this channel knows I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with, because I did not like him at all coming out last year. I thought that was easily one of the worst picks of the draft. He comes out, looks incredible for the Rams, still has a lot of limitations, specifically on rushing downs, but, certainly a good football player. And because of that, the Rams need a linebacker who can play linebacker. And I know that's kind of a rare commodity nowadays, but I think Jihad Campbell is one of those guys that absolutely can do that. So I love that fit with the Rams. As we get to the Ravens here at 27, and I can't let him fall any further, I'm going with Mykel Williams. He's got to come off the board at some point. Like I said, he is arguably my favorite player in this entire class. I have the same grade on him as I do Abdul Carter.
Whoa.
I'm not as big on Abdul Carter as a lot of people. I have them both
Okay.
like a borderline top 10 grade. So really it's kind of like them meeting in the middle more than anything, right? just with Abdul Carter, the run defense really concerns me. And I think the limited tape at edge is also something that could end up biting a team in the ass. I think he's a special player and he'll be good, even if you do end up like having to kick him back to linebacker or something. But excuse me, as a true edge rusher, goodness gracious. As a true edge rusher, I do have some concerns. Whereas with Michael Williams, I think the physical tools are unreal. When you look at the way he can move off the ball, his lateral agility is great. His strength is great. I mean, he's let me double check the size here. I want to make sure I get this 100% right. A 260-pound edge rusher who can legitimately step in as a 4-eye and 2 gap. Like, he has so much flexibility, so much versatility. And I know he doesn't have a ton of tape as like a true edge rusher, but I just see this working out for Baltimore in the sense that if he can't work out at edge, they will find a way to make him work somewhere at some point doing something, even if he's just like a career 2-down guy that just stuffs the run for them. I think they'd be very happy with that. And, you know, with the success they've seen with guys like Jadeveon Clowney, who you mentioned earlier, with Shamar Stewart, who is someone who can just kind of pin his ears back and push the pocket, as opposed to being a super technically sound pass rusher, I think they can find ways to help Michael Williams win.
Yeah, I love it. That actually is who I was going to take here at pick 28 if you left him on the board.
Makes me even happier that I took him for Baltimore and then can't let him go to Detroit.
Yeah, there you go. I'm going to go with another edge rusher to Detroit. I'm going with Mike Green.
That makes me so happy. It makes me so happy, dude.
He's not a prospect that I love.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I think that there is some very serious limitations to him. Like I ran a poll on Twitter a few days ago, like, who do you think is a better prospect between Mike Green and what 2023 Nolan Smith was? And because I think they are pretty comparable in terms of like their styles
For sure.
and stuff like that, right? Like they're both very undersized, like win around the edge guys. And I don't think Green quite has the same counter punches or play strength that Nolan Smith had. But he's someone who is consistently getting into the backfield quickly. And you look at this Lions team, like Hutchinson was probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year before he broke his leg. It's a big question mark how he's going to come back from that, right? Like that's always something scary. And on the other side, who was it they traded for at the deadline? Again,
Zadarius Smith.
Yes, yeah, you got Zadarius Smith, who was like, I don't even know if they still have him or not. I have not looked at their roster.
Let me double check that.
I've been in draft mode as opposed to like off-season recap mode. But the other guy I was thinking of is like, you got a really good rookie season out of James Houston.
Yeah.
And he just like has made it pretty clear since then that he is just not that good of a football player. And I think Green and Houston's skill sets are pretty comparable in terms of like how they win and what they want to do, right? Like both of them very clearly want to get around the edge and stuff like that. And I think it's just the Lions pass rush is very much in jeopardy. I think you're willing to put up with the kind of lapses in run defense in order to get the pass rush juice that Green can offer.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm just going to put it out there now. Anyone watching this video, if you're going to stick around with this channel, just know that will probably be one of 2 times you will ever hear Mike Green talked about on this channel, because we are not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
I do not have a draftable grade on that dude because of the off the field bullshit. It's a mess. But
yeah,
moving to Washington here at 29, I am going to stick on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm looking at their depth chart right now, right? And their 2 edge rushers are Clelin Ferrell and Dorrance Armstrong. And while I don't love that, I don't love a lot of the edge rushers that are still on the board. So I think instead I'm going to go with an interior player that I think in a pinch could kick outside if you need it. And I know they have Johnny Newton. I think this is more of just me saying, listen, you got to get somebody that can rush the passer. And I think the best pass rusher on the board right now is Derek Harmon out of Oregon. I think with the traits and the athleticism, it's somebody that, you know, he probably won't play defensive end or anything, but if you need him to in a pinch, or if you want to go with like a heavy front four, considering it is an even front for Washington, then I think him and Jerzon Newton, and, assuming he's, 100% ready to go. I don't even remember. Did he play like at all last year? Because I don't remember hearing much
he
about
got
him.
snaps. I know he got snaps. The thing with Newton is, like, I had him graded higher than Byron Murphy.
Yeah.
But like there was some medical stuff with him.
The foot, yeah.
Yes, where it was a situation where it was like, it isn't something that is going to just totally like eliminate him, but it's something that could very easily be reoccurring, and so it's just a question mark on how much return you're going to get out of that pick if he can't stay on the field.
Right. And because of that, I think that makes this Harmon pick even better. I have him as like a top 15 player in the class.
Okay.
This is just taking a BPA, trying to get something on the defensive line because of, like I said, the kind of lack of talent down there. Obviously, Deron Payne is very good, but outside of that, you lose Jonathan Allen. You lost Dante Fowler, who was productive for them last year. I think this is somebody that Dan Quinn can easily get some production out of, if nothing else, and help a lot with the pass rush.
Oh man, the Bills are a weird team to draft for, dude. I'm gonna go with Trey Amos.
Yeah.
Out of Ole Miss. I just like, I think cornerback is, the Bills are drafting in a situation where they don't really need to be taking BPA because their window is pretty current, and you're kind of okay drafting for instant need. Like,
Absolutely.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing for true contenders like this. And you look at their depth chart, like their two starting outside cornerbacks are currently Christian Benford and Dane Jackson. And then they've got Taron Johnson on the inside, who isn't the worst thing in the world, but like it's definitely not a group to be excited about. And so I just think adding another corner here would be very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I'm using the same thought process for the Chiefs here at 31, where I know they just paid, was it Dan Moore, a bunch of money? No, Dan Moore ended up going to the Titans.
I was going to say, I think that was not the Chiefs. That is one of the worst contracts of the offseason, in my opinion.
Absolutely. They did pay someone, though. Give me 1 second.
They
Jalen Moore, maybe?
they franchise tagged someone, I think, who, like, it was a guard. Let's look at their depth chart. It was...
I was definitely thinking of Jalen Moore, who's coming over from the Niners.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of Trey Smith, who they franchise tagged.
Yeah.
Which it was like a... It's interesting because the way the franchise tag works for offensive line is there's no separate guard, center, or tackle franchise tag.
Yeah.
It's an offensive lineman franchise tag. And so, since tackles are a lot higher paid than guards, the tackle contracts were factored in, and he is now like the highest paid guard this year.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I know they coughed up a lot of money for that.
But Jalen Moore from the 49ers is who I was thinking of. And listen, I don't care that he's going to be making $10 million over the next 2 years. Or $10 million per year over the next 2 years. It's a $30 million deal with 20 guaranteed. I don't care. He's not anything that moves me. So I am also going to go with a position that I do think is a need, and that's tackle. And I'm going to go with my top tackle on the board, Josh Connerly, out of Oregon. Yeah, I love Connerly. I think his recovery is the best in the class. I think there needs to be some work done with his core, to kind of help his anchor. But right now he's really good at kind of mitigating the impact that has. But in terms of the polish as a pass blocker, his hand fighting's great, his technique's great, his footwork is great. He's a really aggressive run blocker. I just think this is like a franchise tackle that could be dropping to the Chiefs here at 31, and they need like a solidified building block on the offensive line, because as much as I like Trey Smith, I don't know if they're going to be able to get that long-term extension done. And if they do, then that's great. You have two building blocks on the offensive line now. But if you can't get that to work out, then you got to have something, and I think Josh Connerly can absolutely be that kind of player.
I will say I do have a first round grade on Connerly, but I am going to ask you, what is it that is having you draft him over Armand Membo?
I do not like Membu's power, like, at all. I think he is one of, like, I love the athleticism. Obviously,
Mhm.
very quick feet, very good at getting out in space. But I think when you have a raw tackle who has the same, like, core strength limitations with none of the same technique and doesn't just have, like, this aggressive pop in his hands, I'm not as high on Membu. I have a early second round grade on him. So
Okay.
he's still, like, I think he's a good prospect. I just think Connerly's more like, plug him in right now. That's a starting tackle. Membu, there's a lot more projection with, and I think the Chiefs, they need to stop drafting fucking project tackles. They've done it enough. They took the kid out of Oklahoma 2 years ago. They took Sua Matea last year. They need to get somebody that can actually play football, and I think Connerly is a lot better at that than Membu.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I have late first round grades on both of them.
Fair.
And I'm not sighing because I think it's a bad pick. I'm sighing because I'm trying to decide what I want to do for the Eagles here.
Yeah.
Um, my thing with Connerly, like I really like him because I think he's a really good hybrid in the sense of like his frame lets you draft him to be a tackle or a guard.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I kind of like drafting those guys because it kind of feels like you get a second chance if they kind of
Mhm.
look like a bust to just move them and see if that develops a little bit better. Um, oh man, I'm having a tough time deciding right now what I want to do because I want to go with Membo because to me he is the best player on the board right now.
Sure.
Um, and I'm gonna do something strange here.
Okay.
I am going to go with, where is he? Nick Imanwari.
Okay.
He tested in another guy who tested in as a 10 RAS,
Mhm.
right? Like he is a super special athlete. The Eagles right now don't necessarily, like I kind of talked about it for the Bills. Like if you're a contender, you can draft for need and it'll be fine. But the Eagles are a
Mhm.
weird team where for the past couple of years they've been doing this. They don't really have a ton of needs,
Yeah.
right? Like there's not really, for a Super Bowl winning team, like they really have not had a lot of gaps open up. The biggest probably being edge rusher. But
Mhm.
I mean, you look at their roster, their two starting guys are still Nolan Smith and Bryce Huff. Like it's two pass rushers that you feel very confident can get to the passer. And that's not even considering the the interior where you've got Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Moro Ojomo, Byron Young. Like they're still pretty loaded on that defensive line. Even despite losing the Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, all of those guys who hit free agency.
Mhm.
And so the Eagles have kind of been in a weird spot over the past few years where they're drafting to kind of like reload stuff. That's what they did with Jalen Carter when Fletcher Cox's career was coming to an end. And I think at this point you just go BPA, and they love drafting athletes that they can almost
Mhm.
redshirt, right? Where they are kind of sitting in they're kind of sitting for their first year or two. And I think with Eamon Worry, he's got some juice, right? Like there are concerns to me like as a pure safety, like he just
Sure.
has some weird like tackling stuff, but um he's so incredibly athletic that I think what you do if you're Philly here is you just draft him and like kind of do what you did with like Nolan Smith or Jalen Carter or Keely Ringo, where you just put the athlete in the building, let him sit for a year or two, and let him develop behind the veterans. And then when their time comes to an end, you're getting very high level production on a cheap contract.
For sure.
And so that's kind of where my logic is with that. But there's so many directions I could see the Eagles going here that nothing would really piss me off. But yeah, that's what I've got.
Yeah. No, I think that is absolutely very sound reasoning. I'm gonna be honest. I'm a little bit behind, and Eamon Wari is one of the, like, big names I still haven't watched. So I don't know
There are
anything
still
other
some
about the
gaps
guy
I need
other
to fill
than,
too. I'm
yeah.
not fully done.
Yeah, I'm a little behind on safeties and linebackers is where I'm at. And then I think I'm
Okay.
probably gonna end up watching a couple extra receivers considering I have 2 on my board that decided they don't know how to keep their hands to themselves, and I gotta figure out, like, actual draftable players. But,
Yeah.
yeah, I think this is a really fun year for mock drafts because of all the different directions that things could go. Like I mentioned, guys falling, guys jumping up the board. Like you look at this draft we just did, no Shador Sanders, no Armand Membu, um, a couple of the edge rushers that are like fringe round run guys like Uman Malin or Ezaraku fell out. I know a lot of people are big fans of them, but it's gonna be fun here on Thursday. I'm really excited, Jackson. I know you're
It is.
excited too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm
But
getting
with
really hyped.
I am too, man. But with that, I think that is going to wrap us up here. So, Jackson, before we go, if you want to plug anything, this is your moment.
Just at JPownfl on Twitter. That's all I've got.
All right. I'll make sure to put that in the description below. Make sure you follow Jackson. He is one of my favorite follows on Twitter, one of the brightest football minds that cesspool of an app has to offer anymore. Um,
I appreciate
and
that.
absolutely, man. And obviously, you can find me at MillerFootball over there. That'll be in the description as well. But Jackson, thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate it. It's always great getting to talk ball with you. We really need
I
to do it more
appreciate you
often.
having me. I was gonna say, dude, like it's been too long
It
since
absolutely
we've
has
gotten
been.
to PFF. PFF has swallowed my conscience. I don't have as many outlets where I'm kind of like talking about draft takes like this anymore. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say PFF gave you tunnel vision. All the shit that I've talked about them in the past, they've like blocked me out of your peripherals. Um,
Yeah, we don't associate with traders.
of course, of course. Traders and fullbacks, the two things
There
that
you
PFF
go. There
doesn't
you
do that
go.
I am all in on. But yeah, this was a ton of fun. And to everyone out there watching, I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like down below. It does help out the channel a ton, shows your support, shows you care, and I really do appreciate it. Also, make sure to let us know down in the comments what you thought about this mock. Are there any players that you think should have went in the first round that didn't? But yeah, again, thank you all for watching. Once again, Jackson, thank you for coming on. And to all of you out there watching, and Jackson as well, I hope you all have a wonderful day, evening, night, afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you. I hope you enjoy it because you're all wonderful people and you truly do deserve it.
Had a chance on the throwback. This was an ill-advised throw. What an unbelievable catch by Cole Kmet. And he cups it too. No movement when he hits the ground, tucked up against his shoulder. Wow. Using that